guys. Good evening. It is John C Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It's great to be with you. It is, yes, Tuesday evening. It is January 30th, 2024. Just another day left in January. Then we'll be into the cold month of February in 2024. So I do want to thank you for being here. Whether you're here at 11:28 at night, 11:28 in the morning, 1 a.m., 1 p.m., or maybe even 6 a.m. or 6 p.m., I'm so grateful that you have made the choice to tune into inspirations for your life and to let my content be a part of your daily day. That means so very, very much to me. But what I do want to say to you right now, ladies and gentlemen, is I want to say thank you, because right now we have hit over 149,000 downloads. So thank you very much for that. There's a QR code at the top. You can either scan that or you can go to believemeachieve.com. Check out all my great information, including my TikTok. And I want you to follow me there because I want to reach over 1,000 followers so I can stream even more amazing content. But I need to reach over 1,000 followers so I can stream live because I can't stream live on TikTok yet. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley. And in case you didn't know, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a podcast host and a podcast coach. And I'm a specialist in helping businesses tell a story that leads to them growing and being more scalable and, of course, more profitable. I typically do work with companies that bring in 10 million or more. They either know their story or they want me to find their story. And the most important thing is they want to do it from truth. I think that's probably the most important thing, is having them do it from truth. And when you do something from truth, ladies and gentlemen, it's like your life really changes. I mean this, ladies and gentlemen, your life changes when you do something from truth. So definitely appreciate you guys for watching me and for reaching out to me. So let's get into the show, because I know you guys are interested in that. So our master topic, which starts on Saturday, you know that, and rolls all the way through the week and finishes up on a Friday, how to build trust. Series 3, we're in our third year. And our topic for tonight is navigating, authentic connections, series 3, show 5, episode number 4. Wow. So when we talk about authenticness, I bet that probably opened some of your eyes and like, I don't know what you're talking about, John. I have no idea what it means to be authentic. Well, being authentic is something that I think everybody wants to be a part of. Unfortunately, they get wrapped up in some stuff. It happens, you know. What I want to tell you is that most people want to build trust. They don't want to do the wrong thing. But sometimes, you know, other things take what truth should be. Like maybe they get over possessive, or they get too infatuated with greed, that's just the way they have to be. So number one, I'm going to give you a few points tonight. We've been sharing different ones every night. This one's about navigating authentic connections. So you need to avoid self-promotion. So there's a nuance between self-promotion and basically steering away from it. And it can lead to genuine connections that have lasting trust. Now, I will give you a perfect example of bad self-promotion, okay? So if you've ever been on LinkedIn before, I'm sure many of you have, you get these jalopies, and that's what I'm going to call them, jalopies, and they reach out to you with some nonsense, like I'm going to give you one right now. This joker came in. Hi, I'm reaching out to share a unique financial strategy. It's called the blank, 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 using a specifically structured whole life insurance, blah, 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 policy. You can borrow, repay. You can use it for you or your business or both. How about having a quick call to explore further? How about you getting a clue and figuring out how to actually be authentic? So terrible that you do that. Another guy I already had blocked, he's saying, gee, I want to connect with you. You know, when you say to me that you want to connect with me, and you haven't taken the time to read my profile or anything, here's another one. I'm going to share with you. Hi, John. I came across your profile and found it interesting. I would love to connect and learn more. So I'm just going to write him back and say, hi, and this is his name, whatever his name is. Thanks for reaching out. But it is clear to me that you did not take the time to read my entire profile and are just looking to pitch me. I hope that this might teach you that it is important to act with integrity and sincerity before reaching out. And so I'm just going to click on that. I'm going to click send. And then what I'm going to do after I send it is I'm going to go ahead and click block. And so the reason I'm going to click block on him is because he had no interest in getting to know who I am. He has no interest at all. Here's another one. He says, hi, John. I think you have a specialized knowledge and work experience, and I want to learn from you. I bet you do. And I'm going to say block, because the fact that you reached out with such a, how do I say this in a nice way? An approach that doesn't even show that you're really genuinely interested in me. You're just trying to get me to have a conversation with you. So if you reach out and say, hey, John, I love your profile, I usually fire back and say, great. What was it my profile you liked? And then you either fall off the earth or you lie. And you might say, gee, John, that's kind of hard. Is that rude? No, it's not rude. It's that there are people out there. They're on LinkedIn. They're on a lot of different platforms. And they just feel that it's okay to do these things. I get them on Facebook sometimes too. Not so much on Facebook. The Facebook people try to send me this whole dissertation that they're this person, they're that person. And, I just pretty much say, no, thank you. And I block them. And the reason that I block them is because they have no interest in really learning from me. What they're trying to do is get me off guard so I'll have a conversation with them. They're not going to be interested in learning from me. They're going to be like, oh, by the way, I looked at your YouTube channel. I look at this channel, and I notice you're not getting the most traffic, and I'm a professional, blah, 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 promoter, blah, 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 blah. And so that's being dishonest right off the bat. Let's say you're in that business. Now, I'm in a marketing business too, but I don't go out and pitch people like, hey, hi, Mike. Thanks so much for reaching out to me. I would love to have a conversation to learn more about some of the challenges you're facing in the industry of XYZ. And I'd be very specific. I know you took a trip to Switzerland 2 years ago, and I understand that the investment plans didn't go as well as it did. I was just curious, if they did go the way you wanted, what would you have done with the money that you would have received from those investors in Switzerland or Europe or whatever? And so when I have this kind of approach, when I have the conversation, there is not 1 ounce of sales in my communication with them. Hey, John, what do you do? Well, what I do is not important. But if they want to know, I'm like, hey, guys, so I help people, that want to get people to become curious about who they are and what they do. And so they're like, oh, that's interesting. And then they don't ask another question. So you might say, John, is that fair because people are overly promoting? So there's a difference between self-promotion and I'm going to call it I don't want to call it a promotion, not self-promotion, but I want to call it education. I want to call it knowledge. So let's say that I'm in the, let's say I'm in the oil tank installation business. I'm not, but let's say I was. So a genuine way that I could go about that is when I go to meet with you. So, well, John, what do you do? I help people that have challenges with their oil tanks by, figuring out the best way to mitigate things so there's no damage, so they're able to sell their property off when they're ready, and just giving them the truth about their oil tank and what it really means to them about the short-term and long-term exposure as well as liability and what that could mean to their profit line. Nowhere in there did I say anything about selling tanks, or I said I help people, or I could say let's say I was a horticulturalist, right? You know what that is? Maybe they're not as popular, but they're still around. Horticulturalist. And so uh, it's an agricultural employee who uses knowledge of botany, plants, and agriculture to help farmers and agriculturists to cultivate plants, basically to grow them. So let's say I'm a horticulturalist. So I'm not going to say, hey, I help people grow plants. No, I'm going to be like, I help farmers so they're able to, get their products grown and brought to market so they can feed their families and we all can have deliciously tasting food all around the country. Nowhere in there did I sell anything. So there's a difference. I'm also going to talk about it in technology. You guys know I have a technology company. So if I was going to do this in a non-sales, I'm like, hey guys, so I'm the founder of a technology company. As you guys know, I'm an engineer, over 33 years young in the business, a technology company. And I have a real passion for helping people use their technology in the most efficient way for the greater good of all concerned. I often say that technology is not good, it's not bad. It's how we choose to use it that makes it so. And when people decide to work with me, they get to see that the technology has so many more benefits than the negatives that many people often bring to the light. So education is a way that gets people to understand. That's different than saying, hey, I'm John such and such, I sell computers. No, who cares about that? Hi, guys, I'm John C Morley. I'm an engineer. I'm also a founder. And I help businesses that are struggling with the ability to safeguard their data so they don't run into any kind of costly legal lawsuits. Now, it's obvious what I do, but I didn't go in there and tell you, well, gee, I sell firewalls, I sell this, I sell that. I don't sell anything. I just want to have a conversation with you. It might not be a match. How many people do you know that maybe have done phone service? This has been my favorite. They come out and they say, hey, what do you do? Oh, I do phone systems. Great. Instead of, well, I actually help people by letting people understand the different types of technology which will facilitate efficient, cost-effective communication for both them, their vendors, and their clients, and give them a leg up on their competition by providing a high level of integrity and reliability. Well, John, that sounds really interesting. We should really have lunch and talk about it. Well, sure, I'd like to. So I understand you said you help people, blah, blah, blah. So now they come back and say, well, what is it you do? Well, I help people. So you can say, gee, let me ask you a question. Sure. Do you find right now that people in your office are frustrated because your phones aren't getting answered fast enough? Or maybe they're getting lost in the queues of the menus all the time, John? Well, what I like to do is sit down with you and just take a look at how your call trees are working and how things are, getting messages. Are your salespeople getting messages quick enough? Are you getting your messages in a way that's going to work for them? Some salespeople don't want to get their messages, on voicemail. They want to have the ability to get it in multiple ways, like maybe have it text instead as an email. They could still get it on their phone. They don't have to call into the voicemail, but they can have an app on their phone. So now I'm not selling, but I'm answering a question. Now I said, well, John, this sounds really interesting. We have a terrible problem right now. We're missing lots of business because we can't get back to people. It's just a mess. So I said, well, Joe, is that something that you'd like to solve? Absolutely. Okay. Well, would you be interested in learning how I've helped other clients and maybe see how these type of things could possibly help your organization? Absolutely. Great. Well, what I will do is I will give you, I'm going to set up a demo for you and your team. And we'll go through how messages could be handled in a more unified fashion, but won't make you a slave to the technology. That sounds awesome. So now you get this whole thing. Now they've gone through. John, this is really great. How much does this cost? Well, before we talk about costs, why don't we find out how effective would this solution be for your company? I don't know. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we give you a 30-day trial of our system and just see if it makes sense? Now, I've already done my due diligence, and I know that they can afford the system. I know what they're paying on their phone service. I know all this kind of stuff already. So I kind of know that they can afford it. But if I didn't know, I'm like, what does this cost? Well, I'm glad you asked me that. I'm sure you probably pay, a couple $100 for phone service. Oh, John, we pay thousands. Well, let me just say that our technology would cost less than a cup of coffee per employee per day. And their eyes light up. All right. So education, not self-promotion. When you educate somebody about what you do, that's not self-promoting. That's telling a story about a way you've helped somebody. All right, let's talk about the next point. Do what you believe is right. Authenticity is something that is very, very important to many. Whether we're talking about digital signatures, or we're talking about contracts, or maybe we're talking about the fact that you're going to do what's right, that you're not going to do something just to make the fast buck, that you understand that your actions and your thoughts are always in alignment with the best road for your client and you for the long term, not for just tonight or tomorrow or this week. I know a lot of salespeople that go in there and they make the kill. Okay. Car salesmen are notorious for this. And you know what happens? They're usually not there when you go back to buy another car, right? Or at least in the car. So I think what happens with a lot of salespeople is they get out of college or they get out of one job and they have this pressure that they have to make this money, that they're not going to eat, that they could be fired. Instead of trying to figure out what is it the person wants. Do they even want a 4-door car? Or what are their needs? They didn't know they had 6 kids and that they needed a vehicle that was able to be not only cost effective, but one that was going to be rugged enough and that would keep their kids occupied on long trips. If I asked the questions about things that were important and how they drive now and things that are a challenge on their trips, like, hey, Mike, I know you probably take kids trips with the kids now. You mentioned you have 6 kids. That's amazing. What challenges do you have when you take trips? Oh, John, it's always fun. Don't get me wrong. It's just that when we get in the car, like we took a road ride to the Grand Canyon last year. Okay. And so I was in the car with myself, my whole family, and 6 kids. And, we would stop and take the bathroom breaks and things like that. But the biggest challenge for us was that they couldn't use the technology they had. Some of them had, their phones or their wireless gaming systems, which were supposed to connect cellular or Wi-Fi, but they really couldn't do that so well when we were on the road. And then the other challenge is that, they like to watch movies. However, the screens they had were very small, and the ones on the laptop kept shutting down because they just weren't meant for these very long road trips. And the biggest challenge I think that we had is that, when, they're in the back of the vehicle, and we're in the front of the vehicle, I think it became challenging for us to be able to manage, the music selection. I want to listen to something with my partner, and the kids all want to listen to different things. And that wasn't an option. So we got there, but of course we were just literally beat. And we couldn't wait until we got home. And I say something like, Mike, what you shared with me is something that a lot of families go through. And sometimes it really rips that family apart that they don't want to take a trip for another year. They love everybody, but that trip in the car. It's like with the in-laws, right? You don't want to have them as like, they come over, but I'm sure you remember like when it's Thanksgiving and they're all lovely people, but you can't wait till they leave your home. It's like, you've set that 3 or 4 hours, but the minute that 4 or 5 hours, it's like you're already getting tired and you're pushing that hopefully they're going to leave. So I can understand that. Let me ask you a question. What if you could take a trip with your family? And what if your kids could actually use technology without having to bother you? And they could choose the technology they want. Like they could use their Game Boy, whatever they want. They could even be able to, let's say, maybe watch movies in one of the 4 onboard DVD systems that are in the car in the passenger area. And not only that, what if the car had built-in Wi-Fi? So while you were traveling, you'd be able to use your smart devices and not be worried about connecting, since the car would be connecting to satellite. And the only time you really would have an issue is if there was a storm, which you're probably not going to drive in storms anyway. Is that something that would, let me ask you 2 things. 1, motivate you to take another trip, maybe more than 1 a year? Yes. And is that something that might motivate you to want to take a test drive in a vehicle that offers that type of technology that is family friendly? Absolutely, John. I'd like to see this vehicle now. And, sure, I could have you take a test drive. If I was to let you take a test drive with one of these and you liked it, is it something that you would want to purchase within a few days, a month, 6 months, a year, longer, or not at all? Well, John, if I actually got to test drive one of these and I got to experience what was going on, I would want to take this drive, I'm going to tell you, almost immediately. And if I liked it and the numbers were, pretty comparable to other cars, I'd probably say, let's do it. So one thing I do want to let you know, so that before you do test drive it, there is one fee that gets charged on the car every year. It's $500 and it allows you unlimited Wi-Fi. That's it. That's really the main reason that people don't go with us, is because they have to pay that $500. And they might be small families, but it sounds like you pay a lot of money probably for all those bills. And what if you could just have all of your kids' smart devices connecting to the car so they don't go over your Verizon or your Sprint or your T-Mobile or those different bandwidths, right? So, John, I think you're speaking my language. And so you just kind of listen to that. So doing what you believe is right, sometimes you might not get the sale tomorrow. But do what's right anyway, and karma's going to pay back. I've got one more point to share with you tonight, and that is admit your mistakes. I don't care whether you're an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, business owner, family member, volunteer, or just an innocent bystander or a good Samaritan. Embrace your vulnerabilities as a strength. And when you do this, you're going to find something very interesting. Let's take a friendship, for example. Maybe it's somebody you know very well, or you want to get to know well in college, and it's going to be platonic. But you basically get to connect with them. And the thing that's very interesting is that you want to let them know that you're not perfect. And you can do that with a small little story about, oh my gosh, whenever I do this, it's like people would laugh at me. And they're like, oh, John, don't trust me. That's nothing. Say, no, don't worry. I've done that lots of times. But what would really be challenging is if you did that and you forgot when you left your driveway to actually close your door. And you get like an hour and a half and you've left your door open in your house. So you share a little vulnerability. Or, I remember doing this and this happened, or I remember doing this. So when somebody admits their vulnerability, it's like, hey, I'm like you a little bit. And then you kind of share back and forth. And I think the reason people don't share vulnerabilities is because everybody says, oh, I'm better than you. right? I'm better than you. So because I'm better than you, that must mean that I can do anything I want. And ladies and gentlemen, I got news for you. It is not licensed to do that. It's just the ability to say, hey, I'm like you, and I'm not perfect. The other person shares their story, you share your story, and you build a bond together. And the stories you're giving are truth. They're not about trying to say, hey, I've got a bigger problem than you do. It's just about being vulnerable. And I think that's a really key point. And I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Of course, we have more to share with you. Ladies and gentlemen, you know who I am by now. Sure you do. I am John C Morley, serial entrepreneur, and a podcast host, and a podcast coach, and a specialist in helping businesses tell a story that leads to them growing and being more scalable and more profitable. And I want to tell you something else, ladies and gentlemen. When you think about trust, when you think about how to build trust, you see, trust is not something you go to Amazon and you order a kit for $9.99 or $100, or it's not something you just get because you read a book. Trust is something that you have to make the choice to practice and make part of your life. And when you do that, other people start to see it. Thus, they now want to trust you. So you might say, gee, John, well, who trusts first? Well, don't worry about who trusts first. If no one's trusting, why don't you put the first vulnerability out there? And why don't you start to trust a little bit? And then see if that is returned. And I bet you're going to find that because you got vulnerable and because you decided to trust them a little bit, they're now going to probably want to trust you a little bit. And they might share about the same, or they might share something a little bit more. And so that's indicating that, hey, they want to be friends, that they respect you. And by them sharing a story, I'll give you a perfect example. Maybe you had a situation you went to do something. It could have been your driver's lesson. It could have been going to a store, or maybe it was a challenge you had with a customer. And if you're one of these people that says, I'm better than everybody else, you don't want to talk about that challenge. But I like to talk about challenges, not using their names, and saying, look, you know what this did? It helped me become a better version of myself. Now, a lot of you guys know that one of my businesses is in the process of moving because our landlord decided to really hike the prices, and they were not very kind. When people act in this manner, they think they're getting everything because they're controlling you. But when somebody acts so controlling, the truth of the matter is they're not in control. It seems like they're controlling you, and they're controlling everything around you. And the reason that they do this is because they have no other control in their life. So they figure, I need to control things. So I'm going to control everything I can that I own. And people, ladies and gentlemen, they resent that. I got to tell you, they resent that. They resent that. They resent that. And if that be the case, I invite you to exit with these words. Every week, I have something called John's Quote of the Week. I remember putting in on a letter that I sent into the landlord's administrative office in green. I said, John's Quote of the Week, thank you. Thank you for helping me become a better version of myself and helping you become a better version of yourself. It has been an amazing 7-year journey, and it has been a priceless one that I will never forget. Now, I didn't like the people, but I learned a lot of valuable lessons. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night, and I'm going to catch you guys tomorrow, all right? Have yourself an amazing evening, and remember, trust is not built overnight. Just like Rome wasn't built in a day, trust won't be built overnight, and trust can be destroyed like that. In my next show, tomorrow, we're going to talk more about trust and how it's important to keep that integrity going, because if you don't, you can destroy trust like that when it took days, months, hours, weeks, or years to build. And you could destroy it. in the fraction of a moment. Have yourself.